Hello and welcome to this short video on architecture. Architecture is centered space. It is an art in which inner space is made distinct from outer space. In one sense, it is sculpture with interiority. It creates a site that organizes other places around it. It is, in essence, a creative conservation of space. Let's take a look at how a building can transform space. Chartres Cathedral follows the conventional layout for churches, but encloses the space in such a way as to enhance the spirituality of the traditional form. Take a look at the Great Western Rose window, which casts a powerful light in the late afternoon. This window illuminates the transept, which is the horizontal bar of the cross shape that makes up the floor plan of traditional churches. It is said that the blue light that the window casts over the crossing can create a profoundly spiritual experience for the viewer. Thus, architecture creates configurational centers. These are living spaces in which well-designed buildings center themselves and deeply affect our senses. Now, there are 4 general requirements that buildings probably should meet to be considered art. First, we have technical requirements, which are simply the engineering requirements for making such structures in the first place. The Parthenon, for example, to achieve its distinctive look, uses a post and lintel construction whereby horizontal pieces or beams are held aloft by columns or posts. Each part of the construction has a technical name, and all contribute something to the majestic effect of the Parthenon. There are also functional requirements for architecture. For instance, what is the building made to do? Churches and office buildings are usually recognizable by their traditional forms because we understand their functions and the conventional ways those functions are expressed in building materials. Next, we have spatial requirements. How does the building integrate inside and outside? How does the building combine form with function? A good example of the combination of form and function might be Frank Lloyd Wright's Guggenheim Museum, built between 1957 and 1959. The outside structure of the building suggests wide, open interior spaces, and when inside, the floors themselves seem to float on air as you look upward toward the skylight. The form of the building suggests the function of display with an effortless movement from one place to another. Then we have revelatory requirements. In other words, what values are expressed in the architecture? Looking back at Chartres Cathedral, we can see from its windows and sculpture that there was a great emphasis on learning and the representation of the Bible in these artistic forms. The values of Chartres seem to be the education of the spirit. Now let's take a look at some of the types of architecture. Earth-rooted architecture brings out the earth and its symbolism in various ways. Earth-rooted architecture can bring out the earth by drawing attention to the site of the building, as in the mortuary temple of Hatshepsut, which appears as if it were cut out of a stone mountain. It can also bring out the earth through a sense of gravity. James Gibbs's Radcliffe camera is a building that seems like it is being projected out of the ground itself, rising above the earth, but also pressing down on it, even though it is rooted in it. In addition, raw materials can bring out earth-rootedness by reflecting and revealing the surroundings of a building. For example, Frank Lloyd Wright's Kaufman House, also known as Fallingwater, brings out the earthiness of its surroundings by incorporating stone and water features. Earth-rootedness can also be found in architecture that centralizes our experience. The Pantheon in Rome is a great example of a building that is centered internally. The interior space of the Pantheon can be taken in at one glance, and the opening in the roof draws one into the center of the structure, as if secured to the ground. Sky-oriented architecture consists of buildings that bring out the sky and its symbolism. Sunlight, sky, and horizon are very important in this type of architecture. Take a moment to look at Antonio Gaudi's Church of the Holy Family, which is still under construction to this day. The organic forms of the steeples rise upward, seeming to defy gravity. The Hagia Sophia is a good example of sky-oriented architecture, making use of light and integrating it into the plan of the building. The light seems to lift us upward, emphasizing the spiritual and religious function of the building. By contrast, earth-resting architecture consists of buildings that are not organically integrated with the earth or the sky. They seem to sit upon the earth and use the sky as a backdrop. Finally, earth-dominating architecture distinguishes itself with buildings that seem to rule over the earth. There are combinations of these types as well. earth-resting combined with earth-rooted, as in the Long Island Federal Courthouse, or sky-oriented and earth-dominating, as in the Turning Torso in Sweden. With all of the different types of architecture that are possible, urban planning can become complicated quickly. How buildings relate to one another is a problem with various solutions, but no consensus. Many cities are dotted with skyscrapers, but also feature other types depending on the age of the city and the function of the land. Do the buildings where you live and work harmonize or conflict with one another? That's about all the time we have for this lecture. Thank you, and see you soon.